The exploration vessel hovered silently in orbit above the shimmering blue and green sphere, its occupants peering through translucent viewports with a mix of apprehension and fascination. Earth, labeled in the galactic compendium as Primaris 4, was an anomaly, a planet teeming with life yet brimming with hostility. For the crew of the Tessara, a peaceful, herbivorous species known as the IREC, this was their first direct survey of a death world. The mission brief was clear: observe, document, and above all, avoid interference. Captain Servek adjusted his neural interface, eyes narrowing at the planet's swirling cloud cover. Confirm environmental conditions, he ordered, his voice calm but taut. Beside him, Analyst Fira's frond-like appendages fluttered as she processed the incoming data. Atmosphere within tolerable parameters, Fira replied. High biodiversity. Notable concentrations of apex predators. She paused, her bioluminescent gaze dimming slightly. Including the dominant sentients. The term hung in the air. The IREC had encountered sentient life before, but always on tranquil worlds, where intelligence thrived in harmony with nature. The idea of sentience emerging amidst chaos and predation was unsettling. Still, the Council had mandated exploration of such worlds to better understand the universe's extremes. We'll deploy observation drones, Servek decided, glancing at the planet's vast, sprawling wilderness below. Minimal risk, maximum data. The drones descended stealthily, their cloaking fields shimmering as they breached the atmosphere. The crew watched in silence as live feeds flickered to life on their displays, revealing a lush, sunlit savanna. Herds of large herbivorous creatures grazed lazily while predators lurked in the shadows, their lean forms coiled with potential energy. To the IREC, it was a scene of perpetual tension, utterly foreign to their peaceful existence. Then the humans appeared. At first, they were barely noticeable, moving low to the ground as they tracked an unseen target. Fira's appendages stiffened. Bipeds, she whispered. No natural armor. Minimal physical defenses. How do they survive here? The drones zoomed in, capturing every detail. The humans, 3 males and a female, were clad in rudimentary garments, their skin smeared with earth-tone patterns that blended seamlessly with their surroundings. They carried tools, spears and small, sharpened implements, and communicated with quiet, purposeful gestures. There was an air of unity about them, a cohesion that set them apart from the solitary predators nearby. They hunt, Servek murmured, his tone both fascinated and uneasy. Together. The IREC were no strangers to cooperation. Their entire civilization was built upon it. Yet here, in this raw, untamed environment, the humans' collaboration took on a primal edge. They moved with deliberate silence, their eyes scanning the landscape with predatory focus. The target soon became clear, a massive, horned beast grazing near a watering hole. It was twice the size of the largest human, its muscular frame encased in a thick hide. Surely they won't attempt this, Fira said, her voice tinged with disbelief. The risk is too great. But the humans showed no hesitation. One crouched low, studying the beast's movements, while another began to circle wide, positioning himself downwind. The remaining 2 readied their weapons, their muscles taut with anticipation. They were patient, waiting for the perfect moment, their coordination seamless without a single spoken word. The IREC watched, spellbound. Here was intelligence, not wielded for creation or harmony, but for destruction. It was beautiful in its precision, yet horrifying in its intent. They're not predators, Fira said suddenly, her voice breaking the silence. Not in the traditional sense. They're something else. Deathworlders, Servek replied, the term feeling heavy on his tongue. They adapt, dominate. They bend the rules of survival. The hunt began in earnest. The humans drove the beast into a trap, their movements synchronized like a living machine. The creature fought back, its hooves churning the earth and its horns slicing through the air with lethal force. Yet the humans were relentless, their endurance seemingly boundless. They didn't rely on speed or brute strength. They relied on strategy, patience, and an almost unnerving determination. Hours passed. The beast weakened, its movements growing sluggish under the relentless pursuit. When the humans finally moved in for the kill, it was swift and decisive. The lead hunter drove his spear into a vulnerable spot behind the beast's foreleg, his aim unerring. The creature collapsed with a bellowing cry, the ground trembling beneath its weight. In the aftermath, the humans did something the IREC did not expect. They knelt beside the fallen beast, their expressions solemn. One placed a hand on its flank, murmuring words the drones couldn't translate. Another began to prepare the body, working with practiced efficiency but evident respect. "They honor it," Fira said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Even in death." Cervec said nothing, his gaze fixed on the scene below. The humans' duality, merciless hunters yet reverent stewards, was unlike anything he had encountered. It defied the IREC's understanding of sentience, challenging their belief that intelligence and compassion were inherently linked. "Shall we withdraw the drones?" Fira asked after a long silence. "We have enough data." "No," Cervec replied. "Not yet. I want to see more." Unbeknownst to them, the humans had begun to notice subtle disturbances in their environment. The faint hum of cloaked drones, the barely perceptible shimmer in the air. One of them, the female, looked directly at a drone's position, her eyes narrowing. "Captain," Fira said urgently. "They're aware of us." Cervec's appendages stiffened, his bioluminescence flaring briefly. "Recall the drones immediately." As the feeds flickered out, the crew of the Tessara sat in uneasy silence. They had come to study a death world, but what they found was far more unsettling. A species that thrived in the face of chaos, wielding intelligence as both a weapon and a creed. "Log the encounter," Cervec said at last, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his mind. "And recommend full non-engagement. These humans, they are not to be underestimated." Fira nodded, her glow dim. "Agreed." Above the blue and green world, the Tessara turned its nose toward the stars, leaving the death world behind. But for the IREC, the memory of what they had witnessed would linger, a haunting reminder of what it meant to survive, to adapt, and to dominate. The savanna stretched endlessly, golden grasses rippling under the relentless sun. From the safety of their cloaked drones, the IREC watched as the humans prepared for another hunt. The scene was serene on the surface, but to the alien observers, every detail pulsed with latent violence. These were no ordinary hunters. They were apex predators wielding intellect as sharp as the tools in their hands. The group moved with a purpose that unsettled even the stoic Captain Cervec. One of the humans, a tall male with a sunburned face, knelt by a patch of soft dirt, tracing the faint outline of hoofprints. He murmured something to his companions, his voice low and steady, and the others nodded in unison. The female, who seemed to take a leadership role, gestured toward the horizon, her expression unreadable but commanding. They spoke sparingly, their communication a blend of subtle gestures and glances, as though language itself was a secondary tool. "They found a target," Analyst Fira whispered, her appendages trembling faintly as she zoomed in on the human's prey. It was another massive herbivore, grazing in a small clearing ahead. This one bore curved horns and a thick, leathery hide that gleamed in the sunlight. It dwarfed the humans, a living tank built to withstand predators. Yet the humans approached with the quiet confidence of those who had conquered such challenges before. The IREC marveled at the humans' ability to read the terrain, to decipher the faintest signs left behind by their prey. While other predators relied on brute force or stealth, the humans used foresight, a kind of calculated patience that sent a chill through the alien crew. The drones captured every moment, the humans crouching low, examining the wind's direction, even rubbing handfuls of dirt onto their skin to mask their scent. To the IREC, this was a level of preparation reserved for interstellar conflict, not the mundane act of acquiring sustenance. As the humans began their pursuit, the IREC grew increasingly unsettled. Unlike the short, explosive hunts of other predators, this was a test of endurance. The humans tracked the beast tirelessly, moving with a dogged persistence that defied their fragile appearance. The prey, unaware of its hunters at first, eventually caught their scent and bolted, its powerful legs kicking up clouds of dust. The humans didn't falter. They followed relentlessly, their pace steady, their focus unbroken. "It's a siege," Fira said, her voice tinged with something close to awe. "They're wearing it down." Cervec's gaze remained fixed on the display. He could see the sweat glistening on the human skin, hear their labored breathing through the drone's microphones. Yet they showed no signs of stopping. They were creatures of contrasts, delicate enough to be injured by the harsh environment, yet indomitable in their pursuit. The prey slowed, its sides heaving, and the humans adjusted their approach, splitting into two groups to hem it in. The alien crew watched in tense silence as the final phase of the hunt unfolded. The humans coordinated without words, their movements fluid and purposeful. The female carried a spear tipped with sharpened stone, her grip firm as she closed the distance. One of the males distracted the beast with loud shouts and waving gestures, drawing its attention while the others circled behind it. The drones captured every detail, the strain in the humans' muscles, the controlled fury in their eyes, the beast's desperate but futile attempts to defend itself. The kill was both brutal and precise. The lead hunter, her spear aimed with practiced skill, drove the weapon into a vulnerable spot beneath the beast's shoulder. The creature let out a final, anguished bellow before collapsing, its massive frame crashing to the ground. For a moment, the humans stood still, their breaths heavy, their eyes fixed on their fallen prey. It was not a moment of celebration but of quiet respect. "They revere it," Fira said softly, her bioluminescent gaze dim. "Even in victory." One of the humans knelt beside the beast, placing a hand on its still warm hide. He spoke words the drones could not decipher, his tone low and solemn. Another began the work of carving the animal, his movements efficient but careful, as though each cut held significance. The IREC, accustomed to peaceful coexistence with their environment, found the scene both alien and hauntingly intimate. Here was a species that thrived on contradiction, capable of immense violence, yet not without a strange, profound empathy. As the humans worked, the drones recorded everything, their cloaking fields shimmering faintly in the midday sun. The IREC crew watched, transfixed, until Fira noticed something that sent a ripple of tension through the bridge. "They've seen us," she said, her voice taut. Cervec leaned forward, his bioluminescence flaring briefly. On the display, the female hunter had paused her work, her gaze fixed directly at the drone's position. Her brow furrowed, and she motioned to her companions. One of the males stood, gripping his spear tightly, his body tensed like a coiled spring. "Recall the drones," Cervec ordered, his voice calm but firm. The drones began to ascend, their cloaking fields flickering as they moved. But the humans, perceptive as ever, had already marked their presence. The female barked a command, and the group sprang into action. One hurled a stone with startling accuracy, striking the edge of a drone and causing its feed to cut out. Another launched a spear that grazed the second drone before it managed to evade. "They're attacking us," Fira said, her appendages trembling. "They think we're threats." Cervec said nothing, his gaze fixed on the remaining feeds as the drones retreated into the sky. The humans stood below, watching them go with expressions that were not of fear, but of curiosity and defiance. Even in their vulnerability, they projected an aura of dominance that made the IREC shiver. Back aboard the Tessara, the crew sat in uneasy silence, processing what they had witnessed. The humans were no ordinary sentients. They were survivors in the truest sense, creatures forged by hardship and honed by endless struggle. They were as much a part of their death world as the predators that lurked in its shadows, and perhaps even more dangerous. "They're remarkable," Fira said at last, her voice quiet. "But I see now why the Council fears them." Cervec nodded, his bioluminescence dimming. "Prepare the report. They'll want to know everything." As the ship turned its sensors away from the golden savanna and toward the void beyond, the IREC knew one thing with certainty: they would never look at sentient life the same way again. The Tessara drifted in the upper atmosphere, cloaked in silence as the IREC crew debated their next move. The encounter on the savanna had unsettled them more deeply than they cared to admit. Cervec paced the command deck, his bioluminescent patterns flickering erratically as he processed the events. They had come to observe, to study from a distance, but the humans' perceptiveness had turned their detached survey into an active dilemma. "We've overstepped," Fira said, her voice tight with unease. "They know we're here. If we continue, we risk escalating the situation." Cervec turned to her, his appendages folding inward in thought. "They may not understand what we are, but they recognize that we're watching. That awareness changes everything." Fira hesitated, her fronds trembling. "Do we leave? Submit what we've gathered and recommend an immediate quarantine of the planet?" Before Cervec could answer, an alarm sounded, sharp and insistent. The ship's sensors had detected movement, fast, deliberate, and heading directly toward their cloaked position. Fira's appendages flared as she scrambled to interpret the data. "It's them," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The humans." Servek leaned over the console, his gaze narrowing. The humans had abandoned the clearing, their prey forgotten. Now, they moved in a tight formation, their focus fixed on the sky. One of them, a male with sharp, calculating eyes, carried a crude but effective throwing implement, likely designed to test whatever invisible force had disturbed their hunt. "They're coming to find us," Fira said, her voice tinged with disbelief. "How is that possible?" Servek felt a ripple of unease pass through him. These creatures, primitive by the galaxy's standards, had no technology to rival the IREX cloaking systems. Yet their instincts, honed by survival on a death world, had led them to detect what advanced sensors could not. "They're testing boundaries," Servek murmured. "Theirs and ours." The humans slowed as they neared the area where the drones had hovered. Their leader, the female who had struck the drone earlier, raised a hand to signal a halt. The group fanned out, their movements cautious but purposeful. One of them crouched low, examining the ground for traces, while another scanned the sky, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. Servek's appendages twitched with unease. He knew they could not afford further engagement, yet a strange curiosity compelled him to linger. "Deploy one drone," he said at last, his voice steady. "Minimal altitude. Let's see how they react." Fira hesitated but obeyed, her appendages moving swiftly over the controls. A single drone descended, its cloaking field shimmering faintly as it hovered just above the treetops. The humans reacted immediately, their heads snapping toward the disturbance. The leader gestured sharply, and the group moved in unison, weapons ready. "What are they doing?" Fira whispered. "They're testing," Servek replied, his tone grim. "Trying to determine if we're a threat." One of the humans, the male with the throwing implement, stepped forward. He squinted at the faint distortion in the air, then hurled his weapon with astonishing precision. The drone evaded, its sensors whirring, but the act itself was enough to send a ripple of tension through the Tessara crew. "They've already decided," Fira said, her voice taut. "They see us as prey, or as predators." The drone ascended, its cloaking field shimmering as it moved beyond the humans' reach. Yet the humans did not retreat. Instead, they began to mark the area, using stones and broken branches to leave signals for one another. They were creating a map, their intelligence translating an unseen presence into tangible clues. "They're relentless," Fira said, her bioluminescence dimming with unease. "They won't stop until they understand us, or eliminate us." Servek straightened, his appendages stilling as he made his decision. "We leave. Now." Fira blinked in surprise. "But the mission—" "The mission is complete," Servek interrupted, his voice firm. "We've seen all we need to see. Any further contact risks compromising not just this survey, but our entire species." Fira hesitated but nodded, her fronds lowering in submission. The ship's engines hummed softly as the Tessara prepared to ascend into orbit. Below, the humans watched the sky, their expressions sharp and calculating. They had no evidence of the IREX presence, only an instinctive sense that something alien had been watching them. That knowledge alone was enough to keep them alert. As the ship broke through the upper atmosphere, Fira turned to Servek, her bioluminescent patterns flickering with unease. "What do we tell the Council?" Servek stared out at the stars, his gaze distant. "We tell them the truth. That humanity is unlike any sentience we've encountered, a species shaped by conflict, driven by curiosity, and defined by resilience. They are not to be underestimated." Fira tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Do you think they'll pose a threat to the galaxy?" "Not yet," Servek said after a long pause. "But they will. One day, they'll leave their death world, and when they do, the galaxy won't be ready." The bridge fell silent as the Tessara accelerated into the void, leaving Earth's gravity well behind. Yet the humans remained in their minds, a haunting enigma, a testament to what sentience could become under the harshest of conditions. Servek knew the IREC would never return to this world, but he also knew its inhabitants would one day seek them out. When that day came, It would not be as prey or as equals. It would be as something far more dangerous. "Mark Earth as a no-go zone," Cervec said at last, his voice a quiet command. "And recommend heightened observation from a distance. They're not ready for the galaxy, but the galaxy isn't ready for them either." Fira nodded, her bioluminescence dimming as she logged the report. The ship disappeared into the vast expanse, leaving Earth to its cycles of life and death. On the surface, the humans gathered their tools and returned to their village, unaware of the profound impact they had left on their unseen visitors. Above, the stars bore silent witness, as they always had, to the indomitable force of survival.